That day I cried seeing my dad in a deep romance with Helena, Mom's younger sister. It is not quite long I lost my mom through a deadly disease called cancer. How dare you, Dad? How dare you bring in her in our home? I thought you loved Mom. You replaced her immediately with Helena. I was just talking to myself, but I know what I saw. It was true. It was real. I saw them kiss and make love in my mom's room. I sensed betrayal, divided attention, divided heart. My dad might as well forget about his own daughter. My name is Beauty. The world is indeed wicked. This is my story. Judge if you wish to. Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, do well to subscribe and hit on notifications. To all my returning subscribers, thank you for always watching my videos. That day it started with a knock. Not the kind that makes your heart leap with joy or sends you running to the door with hope in your eyes. No, it was the kind of knock that dragged up memories, the kind that wrapped around your spine and whispered, "This won't end well." I was the one who opened it. Dad was upstairs in his usual days. I remember the way the early evening sun poured through the window, making the dust in the air dance like tiny ghosts. And there she was, Aunt Helena. My mother's younger sister. 10 years younger. Same hazel eyes, same high cheekbones, but that's where the similarities stopped. My mother was soft, calm, quiet like a river. Helena? She was a storm in heels. She stepped inside like she belonged, like grief had carved a space just for her. "Beauty," she said, arms outstretched, voice smooth like honey. "Look at you. You're all grown." I stood stiff in her hug, unsure how to feel. I hadn't seen her since the funeral. Even then, she wasn't the type to cry. Not loudly, anyway. "I came to help," she said. "Your father must be drowning in sorrow. And you. I can't imagine." Dad came down not long after. The moment he saw her, something flickered in his eyes. Not joy. Not surprise. Something else. Something that made my stomach twist. "Helena," he said, his voice rough from too many nights of silence and whiskey. "I didn't expect." "You didn't have to," she cut in gently. "I needed to be here. For both of you." She moved into the guest room that evening. Said it would only be for a few days, but even then I knew that wasn't true. The first week was quiet. Tense. She cooked dinner, something my father hadn't done since Mom died. The kitchen smelled of spices and old memories. Dad started coming home earlier. He even shaved. I noticed these things, though I tried not to. Sometimes, late at night, I'd hear them talking in the kitchen. Laughing. The sound of clinking glasses. Then silence. I told myself they were just grieving. That it was normal to find comfort in family. But then I saw the way her hand lingered on his shoulder when she passed him the salt. The way he looked at her, like he wasn't sure if he was seeing her or remembering someone else. And the perfume. God, the perfume. Mom used to wear this soft vanilla scent that stayed in the curtains long after she'd left the room. Helena wore something stronger, floral, almost too sweet. It clung to everything, even to my father's shirts. It started haunting me. One night, I walked into the living room and found them on the couch. Helena was leaning in, laughing softly at something Dad had said. His arm was draped along the backrest, fingers barely brushing her shoulder. They both froze when they saw me. Helena straightened. Dad cleared his throat and looked away. "I was just telling Eric about the time your mom and I got lost at the lake house," she said, her voice too cheerful. "We were 16. She cried because we left the snacks in the car." I nodded, pretending to smile, pretending not to see the truth hanging between them like a thick, invisible curtain. That night, I couldn't sleep. The house felt smaller with her in it. Like every room had too many memories and not enough air. I sat by the window, staring at the stars, wondering how long it would be before my father stopped pretending that she was just helping us heal. Or maybe I was the one pretending. Mom's piano sat untouched in the corner, covered in a thin layer of dust. She used to play it every Sunday morning. I'd wake up to the sound of soft melodies and the smell of fresh waffles. Now, the only thing that filled the house was silence and her sister's voice. I started avoiding dinner. I buried myself in books, music, anything that kept me from seeing the way my father looked at her. The way he smiled again. But the truth has a way of making itself known loudly, painfully, and always when you least expect it. And soon enough, I would hear the truth. I would see it. And it would shatter what was left of the girl I used to be. There are some things you should never see. Not because your eyes can't handle them, but because your heart can't forget them. It was just past midnight when I woke up. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that presses against your skin. I got out of bed, my throat dry, and padded barefoot down the hallway toward the kitchen. That's when I heard it. A soft creak, a whisper, the faint rustle of movement. Not from the kitchen, but from the room that used to belong to my mother. A room my father hadn't stepped into since the day we buried her. My feet stopped moving. My hand froze on the banister. Something inside me tightened. The door was ajar. Just a sliver, just enough for the hallway light to pour in, and just enough for me to see. At first, it didn't register. My brain refused to understand. My eyes saw skin, shadows, breathless movement, but my heart denied it. Then it hit. Him. Her. In that room. In that bed. Where my mother used to sleep. I backed away before they could see me. My pulse pounded so loud I was sure it would echo down the hall. I turned and ran quietly back to my room, slammed the door, and collapsed on the floor. I wanted to throw up. I wanted to scream. I wanted to wake up and find it was a bad dream. But it wasn't. I lay awake until morning, staring at the ceiling, every breath shaking. I kept hearing my mother's voice in my head, soft, gentle, full of warmth. She used to hum lullabies at night, even when I was too old for them. She believed in love, loyalty, and keeping family close. If she knew what had happened under her roof, in her bed, with her sister. I covered my mouth as a sob escaped. I didn't want to cry loud. I didn't want to let them hear me break. But something inside me had shattered. At breakfast, I didn't speak. Dad was at the table, scrolling through his phone like nothing had happened. His hair was neatly combed, and there was a faint smile on his lips. A man who'd found something, or someone, to keep him breathing. Helena walked in, humming, wearing one of my mother's old robes. Her robe. My stomach turned. "You're up early," she said to me, pouring herself coffee. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Dad glanced at me briefly, his eyes flicking to the robe. A flicker of discomfort crossed his face, but he said nothing. That was his new habit, saying nothing. As if silence could erase what we all knew. I pushed away my plate and left the table. I didn't look back. Over the next few days, I avoided them. I ate alone. I stayed in my room, headphones on, pretending music could drown out reality. But you can't unsee the truth. You can't unhear the soft moans coming from the bedroom you grew up passing every morning. And worst of all, I couldn't even hate them. I hated what they did, but I understood it. Dad was broken. Helena was lonely. Grief is a monster that makes you crave comfort, even in the wrong arms. But understanding doesn't mean forgiving. And silence doesn't mean peace. One night, I stood outside their door again. This time, I didn't look. I didn't need to. I just stood there, listening. Not to them, but to the beating of my own heart. It was fast. Loud. Furious. This wasn't just betrayal. This was erasure. My mother's memory, her place in our home, her love, replaced. Covered up by perfume and whispers and the soft click of a door that never should have been shut. I wanted to tell someone. But who do you tell when the wound is inside your own blood? I went back to my room, closed the door, and stared into the dark. My father used to be my hero. Now I didn't know who he was. They say scent is the strongest tie to memory. And every time I'd passed him, my father, I didn't smell home anymore. I smelled her. Floral. Overpowering. A sweetness that didn't belong. Her perfume clung to him like a secret, one I never asked for, never wanted, but couldn't escape. It settled in his clothes, in the fabric of the couch, in the spaces where my mother's scent used to live. It was almost cruel, how quickly it all changed. One Sunday morning, Dad offered to drive me to the bookstore. We hadn't been alone in weeks. He seemed lighter, like a man who had found a reason to smile again. But I couldn't find the words to match his. I sat stiffly in the passenger seat, windows down, the cold air rushing in to battle the scent of her on his jacket. "Beauty," he said gently, his fingers tight around the wheel. "You've been quiet." I turned my face toward the window. "You think I don't know?" I wanted to scream. "You think I didn't see you? In her? In that room?" But I didn't say anything. I was still his daughter, still holding on to what little innocence I had left. "I know this hasn't been easy," he said, "for either of us. Then why did you let her in? Why did you let her erase Mom?" I swallowed the bitterness. "It's fine," I whispered. But it wasn't. And he knew it. That night, the silence between us grew louder. Helena was in the kitchen again, dancing barefoot to some old jazz record, laughing like the house belonged to her. Maybe it did now. I watched from the doorway. My father moved behind her, placed his hands on her waist. She leaned back into him, her smile turning soft. I clenched my fists. She turned, caught my eye, and didn't flinch. She didn't move away from him, didn't offer an apology. Instead, she gave me a small nod, like this was normal, like I should understand. But I didn't. I couldn't. I began spending more time outside, at libraries, cafes, anywhere but home. My chest felt tight the moment I stepped through the front door, like I was walking into someone else's life, someone else's family. The piano stayed untouched. My mother's photo still sat on the hallway table, but now it looked like a lie. Everything had shifted. One night, I came home late. Helena was gone, probably at the store, but Dad was there, sitting on the couch, the television flickering with colors he wasn't watching. He looked tired. "Come sit," he said. I hesitated, then did. We sat in silence for a while, the kind that stretches too far, like it's about to snap. "I miss her too," he finally said. I looked at him. "Do you?" He turned to me, guilt splashed across his face like spilled wine. "I do," he said. "Every day." "Then why?" My voice cracked. I couldn't finish the question. "Because grief is lonely," he whispered. "And your aunt, she was here. She reminded me of Maria. Sometimes I close my eyes and I swear I hear your mother in her voice." I felt my chest cave in. That wasn't love. That was desperation. "You're not the only one who lost her," I said softly. He looked at me then, really looked. "I know. And I'm sorry." But sorry couldn't fix what I'd seen. It couldn't clean her perfume off his skin. It couldn't make me unremember. A week later, I found something on the bathroom sink. A bottle of perfume. The same one Helena wore. It wasn't hers. It was new. Unopened. A gift. The tag read, "For you, always, Eric." I stared at it until the letters blurred. He wasn't just grieving anymore. He was choosing her. You don't wake up knowing your life will break. It just happens. Quietly. Slowly. Then, all at once. That night, the power went out. It had been storming all day, thick clouds, heavy air, thunder rolling in the distance like a warning. Helena had gone out with friends. She didn't even say goodbye. I stayed in my room, reading, pretending everything was normal. Around midnight, The lights died. A flash of lightning lit the hallway, followed by deep, swallowing darkness. I wasn't afraid of storms, but the silence that followed felt heavier than the rain. Then came the knock. Not on my door. On my heart. Beauty? His voice, my father's, soft, just outside my room. I hesitated before opening it. A flashlight flickered in his hand, casting strange shadows across his face. The storm knocked the power. You okay? I nodded. He stepped in. Uninvited, but calm. Familiar. He placed the flashlight on my dresser and sat at the edge of my bed. I hate how quiet it gets when the lights go, he said, trying to smile. I didn't respond. The air felt thick. Clothes. You used to crawl into our bed during storms when you were little. Your mom always said you were a ball of warmth. My eyes burned at the memory. That was a long time ago. I still remember it, he said. Every detail. We sat there, him on the edge of my bed, me frozen in place. I wanted to ask him to leave. I wanted to scream at him, "You're my father, not her husband anymore. Not her lover. Not hers. Not mine." But the words died. He looked so lost. So human. He reached out, brushed a strand of hair from my face. His fingers were warm, trembling. "Beauty," he whispered, voice cracked and aching. My breath caught in my throat. Something shifted, and in that single, irreversible moment, he kissed me. I didn't move. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I froze, because part of me was still that girl who wanted to be seen, who missed her father, who missed the way he used to laugh with Mom, who missed love in the house. And when his lips touched mine again, I didn't pull away. I let him. I let him become the man who loved my mother, through me. And I became her. When it was over, the storm outside had faded. But inside me, it had only begun. He sat quietly, head in his hands, whispering, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." I didn't reply, because I didn't even know who I was anymore. Daughter. Stranger. Ghost. Maybe all of them. He left my room without another word. I sat in the dark, knees to my chest, arms around myself like armor. It wasn't love. It wasn't healing. It wasn't even desire. It was grief. Twisted. Confused. Broken. And the guilt. It wrapped around my chest like a rope that would never loosen. In the weeks that followed, he avoided my eyes. Helena moved out. Dad didn't speak much. Neither did I. Because how do you speak of something that never should have happened? How do you name it? You don't. You just carry it. Like a shadow that never lets go. Have you ever imagined yourself in this kind of situation? What would you have done about it? Do well to subscribe and hit on notifications for more interesting stories like this.